The ultimate evidence of the Holy Spirit in our lives is not signs, miracles, wonders, gifts, tongues, faith, hope, or holiness. The greatest evidence of the presence of the Holy Spirit in us is love. There are three things that will endure: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of these is love. Love is how the world knows we are followers of Jesus. Love motivates us to minister to the least and the most difficult of these, and in doing so, to serve and love Jesus. Love inspires two great commandments that Jesus gave to us. Love agape, that is selfless, unconditional, and completely giving, is impossible without the help of the Holy Spirit. He pours God's love out of our hearts. For we know how dearly God loves us, because He has given us the Holy Spirit to fill our hearts with His love. When the Holy Spirit fills us with love, every fear, every worry flees. This is God 321. And now, here's your host, Danny Hutchins.
Well, hello, Detroit. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful week. I can't believe it. We are so fortunate. We're coming up on July the 4th, and there are just lists and lists and lists of fireworks and celebrations, and it looks like the weather's going to cooperate, all through this time. I want to say hello to you this morning, and we have a special guest, Evelyn Van Souten. I think I pronounced that right. Probably not, but she'll be in here. She's going to be with us just a minute. I'm going to talk while she gets ready with her notes and all those things. I'll talk to you about our next audience participation contest. Okay. What we're going to do, we're going to ask you again to look out at the audience, to look out at your neighbor, and to look across the street and to go to talk to someone and to write that letter, just as you did with the automobiles. Just as you did with the automobiles, what we're going to do is look to provide $1,000 to two people, okay, each. So $2,000, $1,000 each for medical expense. But I need you to look like and write to us and tell us someone who needs this medical expense. We all need money for medical expenses, but there are people who need it desperately more, that they have, bills that they just cannot pay. Now, we will do this one for 30 days, so we can get started. You guys can start this week. God321.net. You need to go and you need to email me, Dan Hutchins at God321.net. So that's my email. You need to send it in. You need to look out. You need to look next door. You need to look within your relationships, okay? And you need to meet new people and ask questions. But there are so many who have needs, and you have eyes, and you have ears, and you have hands. So we got to be God's hands, eyes, ears, and His feet, and go forward. And those are big shoes to fill, by the way. Thank you, Steve. We need, and Steve's got really big shoes on today, so he's trying to fill God's shoes. They fill up the room over there. But you need to go forward because there are those that you can touch. And the purpose for the writing the letter is so that you touch, you investigate, you ask questions, you seek, you find. Send us an email. Dan Hutchins, God321.net. Evelyn, how are you? Glad that you are here with us from Crossroads Pregnancy Center. Tell us about you.
Oh, boy. About me or about the center?
Well, you can tell us about you. How about just a little about you first, so we know who we're talking to? This vivacious woman who walks in here, with the streaming hair and the happy face.
Well, that's because I was running because of a traffic issue. A little bit about me. You'll notice that I have a little bit of an accent, I'm told, and that is my Canadian roots. My family moved here 11 years ago from Ontario. And I am married to a wonderful man named Alan Van Sloten. We have 4 lovely daughters.
Four lovely daughters.
2 of our daughters are in college. One is in high school, and we have a middle schooler. And it's also part of the reason why I got involved in a pregnancy center ministry to begin with, not because it was a personal issue in our home, but watching my kids navigate our culture.
Through school, high school, through just the whole dating scene, and
they aren't really engaged so much in the dating scene as much as just watching the influences that they are surrounded with, and the awareness that parents are such an important role model to children, and a lot of parents are not engaged. They're leaving a lot of that instruction to the school system, and the school system information is not really navigating them so well, and becoming aware of the problem of how to make good choices, how to have good character, how to practice self-control, how to use refusal skills, those sorts of things.
Well, that's a heavy burden on young ladies today, even heavier than it has been in the past, because sex today is, for what I see in our youth culture, even, for across the board, is just wide open, and it's unbelievable how casual people are with sex.
Yeah, we've seen a really big change over the last decade, particularly in how it is perceived, how it's portrayed. You turn on the television today, and what you will be confronted with is very different from what you may have seen even 10 years ago. Looking at music videos today, you'll be confronted with a sense of sexuality and endorsement of risky behavior that you just wouldn't have been exposed to 10 years ago unless you went looking for it on a not so prevalent network site.
Yes.
And today it's just widespread, and it's everywhere, whether you're walking in the mall, the music that they're playing, or the images that you're seeing in storefronts, the whole sexualization of a culture. And it's not just girls, it's the young men as well.
Yes, absolutely.
I got involved with the ministry of Crossroads initially because I wanted to work with the young moms. And I was a part of that ministry for
the young single moms?
The young single moms who were coming to us, usually before they had their babies, looking for support, looking for counsel, and needing a helping hand. And I love a ministry that doesn't just outline what the problem is, but they do something about it. So they are the hands and the feet, and the hugs and the hand-holding, and if you need me to be there when you give birth to your little one, and it's not letting them go at that point.
Well, you said that the people who volunteer here and work here are predominantly have a nursing background.
That is with my program.
Your program.
That is with the SHARE program that the ministry offers now. Those that are involved in the work of counseling at the center are men and women who have huge hearts and are willing to give up their own time, number one, for the training to be a counselor. And the training program is quite intense and beautifully done within the framework of a biblical mindset.
Is this the training provided by Crossroads?
It is.
Oh, that's great.
It is.
Yeah, that's great.
And we have volunteers who do, a ministry cannot exist, as you are aware, today without many hands being involved and many people. We don't receive any government funding for the services that we provide. The men and women who come in from, whether it's bringing items in from garage sales, our strollers, our pack and plays, to providing diapers, to sorting clothing, to sweeping the floor, to doing mailings. I mean, the myriad of volunteer opportunities are certainly there. And then what has happened over the past number of years is that Crossroads has taken on a little bit of a new direction, not leaving anything from the old. In fact, it's building on it. But what we see from the young men and women who walk through our door, whether they're in need of material assistance, whether they're in need of a free pregnancy test or a free ultrasound, and we have all those services. We offer materials assistance for a year or more, depending on what the need is after the baby is born.
After the baby, that's what I was just going to ask you. I was writing down that do you provide assistance after the baby is born?
Absolutely.
And the answer is yes. Counseling to the parents of the young lady or the couple?
Counseling to the couple or just the young lady?
Well, yes.
Or the girl and her parents,
and
whoever.
The girl and her parents, or the young man and his parents?
We hope the young man is still there. Unfortunately, the reality is that they're there for what brings the girls in, and as soon as they realize there might be a pregnancy involved, they're out of the picture. Yeah. And that's just the very sad reality. However, our director has also officiated at a wedding service for some of our clients, and that's always a joyful occasion. But the misnomer that often exists is that many people feel that those who come to a pregnancy center are there because they're very young and they're scared and they have nowhere else to turn. And that's true. That is much of what we see at our center. But the other part is we have married women coming in. We have career women coming in. It's not just one demographic of our society.
Yeah, the married women coming in, with sex out of their marriage. Are they coming in just because, or a mixed bag because this is late in life and I don't know what to do and I'm psychologically just blown away by the fact I'm pregnant again?
A little bit of all of that. Sometimes it's for confirmation of a pregnancy. An opportunity to show them again the wonder of the unborn child in their womb.
Yes, with the ultrasound equipment.
Yeah, we're very blessed in that we have amazing equipment. And last year alone, we were able to do 181 ultrasounds. And we know that the sonography that we do there is changing lives. We have had many abortion-minded women come in, and even with their parents, and after they're looking at that little one and hearing the heartbeat, their minds are changed, and they realize it's a life.
Yeah, Congress is considering, as you probably know, requiring before there is a choice of abortion that there's an ultrasound and a viewing.
Absolutely.
That's out there as I think, to be considered here this fall.
We're very excited about what that might potentially mean for the pro-life movement, for all those unborn little ones who have no one speaking for them. And it's an opportunity for them to sort of be heard, whether it's through a screen or just to say. What we find is a lack of knowledge. And a lack of knowledge
and fear
leads to a lot of poor decision making.
Yes.
When you give somebody information and help them navigate the choices that are before them, giving them full information. So yes, we do outline what is involved in an abortion procedure. We also outline what is involved in giving a life. And the other side doesn't tend to show both sides of it. They're very one-sided oriented. But many people are still under the misconception that a life that begins isn't really a life until the heartbeat begins, or it's not really a life until you're showing, or it's not a life until I can feel the baby kicking. And the reality is that life begins at conception.
Yes.
And we've seen that scientifically. We've seen that. We know that from the scriptures. We know from what Psalm 139 teaches us. And what we've done now, and we have a bit of the awe factor, we've developed a high school program that deals with pregnancy. And we're coming into high schools and we're showing them a pregnancy presentation that leaves them in no doubt that life in its complete form begins from that moment that the egg and the sperm unite and conception takes place. And that egg is now fertilized, and we travel sort of through the whole process with them.
You show them visually through the process with film or slides? Or
We do. We have a PowerPoint presentation. We also show them the fetal models of a 7, 8, 9, 10-week-old, and we show them to the kids and we pass them out. And often what we'll hear is, "That looks like a baby," and it's like, that's because it is.
It is a baby.
And it's so wonderful to show them the process of development for a little one, because they're told in many cases that it's nothing. It's a blob of tissue. And when we show them that tissue has a DNA
Yes.
That's already determined things like personality and hair color and eye color and many facial and genetic traits that are already evident from conception on. They're like, wow, that's not a nothing. That's really a something.
But the other part is the feedback part is this is where you were once at. We all were once at, and if we dismiss this, then you would not have been here,
Absolutely.
This is you. Mm-hmm. This is you. This is your mirror right here. What's amazing to me about one of the things, I don't want to limit it, about women is how a woman shortly after conception knows that they're pregnant, knows that there's a life in them, knows that there's a new life within them, that knowledge of, oh my goodness, I believe I'm pregnant. Is that amazing? Because and see, that's God, the Holy Spirit ringing the bell. They're saying, there's a new life within you. Because women, some know it so right on the date. They go, I know the day. I know the date.
And that's good because that's one of the questions we ask them when they come in. What is the date of your last cycle? And,
but some do. Some know.
They do often if that's something that they're looking for. If they're coming in because they want affirmation. Mm-hmm. For some, it's fear-based. And it may
some
be
denial.
And a lot is denial. It's not something they think it will never happen to them, and the United States has the highest number of teen pregnancies in the industrialized world.
Yes.
We also have the highest number of sexually transmitted diseases.
Yeah.
And
we also have the highest number of abortions in the industrialized world.
And it's a lot of people who, pregnancy, of course, it's girls, but a lot of them that are saying, I never thought this would happen to me. I never knew. And the beauty of our SHARE program that we present in the schools is that we're giving them information. So they do know, and they do understand.
What grades do this SHARE program start in?
The SHARE program starts in 7th grade. 7th
grade.
And so schools have an option of, it's a 3 or a 4-day program in the middle school. And they have an option of either 7th or 8th grade, and it usually follows up with their reproductive health unit.
Is this for just girls or boys and girls?
That's the wonder of it, and the beauty is that we are presenting this information to both boys and girls. And so...
is this in, we talked before the show, is this in Oakland County?
The schools that we're able to present in are throughout Oakland County. We're in...
Well, you mentioned Macomb potentially today, Utica.
We are in a school in Utica and hoping that program will expand. We've been there the last few months. We were able to present in one of the schools. It's a very new program for the district. We've had nothing but positive responses.
Do you have a sister that deals with Wayne County and Macomb County, a sister organization?
In Macomb County, there is YCAP, which is a group that works through the YMCA program, and they're an abstinence program. It's the Macomb County, I have to think about it, abstinence programming. MCAP is, the official name of their program, and they're in
okay.
Macomb.
We can find that and talk about them another day. Yeah. And then, is your program in Wayne County?
Our program is not. The center is located in Auburn Hills, and we have clients that come to us across, not just Oakland County, but many counties.
So you're open to all? We
are open to all. Understand that we've seen God do truly amazing things. I had a meeting this morning with our middle school instructors recapping our year. 5 years ago, our program was taught in Troy Middle Schools and Avondale Middle School. So we had a total of 5 schools.
5 schools. Just 5 schools 5 years ago.
5 schools 5 years ago. And
now you have 33 schools?
This year we taught in 33 schools, both middle schools and high schools, several private schools, but most of them are public schools.
That's a big staff.
It's a lot of people who want to make a difference. My statistics this morning were that we were able to present 718 programs this year. and we reached 7,400 kids.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It's
fantastic.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Had
amazing.
someone told me 3 years ago, well, this is what you'll be doing, and you'll be in the high schools, I would have said, you're crazy.
Well, how are you impacting? You obviously are having an impact, but you're also impacting sexual disease because you're dealing with awareness of that also at the same time.
We are. Our middle school program, we're starting to teach the kids, hopefully before they are engaging in sexual activity, the importance of bonding, the importance of staying safe emotionally as well as physically, because a lot of times what we see on TV or what we hear in music is that sex it affects you physically. We all know that. But it's nothing more than that, and it's not a big deal. Hooking up doesn't leave you with any residue. And what we're discovering is that God has designed monogamous relationships for a reason.
Yes.
He's designed marriage in such a profound way, and even to the point of we have a hormone in our body called oxytocin, and it's a bonding hormone. Basically is what it does. It connects one person to another.
It actually connects one person to another, and what we're looking at too, we have a phone going off in the room. We thought we shot it, but it survived, and it was running around the room and quacking.
Sorry about that.
We're talking about oxytocin.
Oxytocin. What we've discovered is that when we are physically aroused by somebody, or when a mom delivers a baby, or when a mom breastfeeds a baby, it creates this bond between the mother or this woman and another person, or a man and another person. And it creates a connector that wants a relationship. And in a marriage, it's a beautiful thing. It keeps marriages strong. Outside of that bond, when it's broken, it creates a lot of pain. And what we've seen is an increase in a lot of destructive behavior. A lot of kids are choosing risky behavior to help process painful circumstances that they go through. And so we see an increase of things like cutting and eating disorders and drug use and alcohol abuse.
And pulling out their hair.
And it's so sad, and we're seeing it younger and younger because our kids are exposed at younger and younger ages to a very sexualized culture. And when that's all they're surrounded with, and when that's the message that they see, that sex before marriage is perfectly normal and everybody does it, so why wouldn't I? Without understanding the why wouldn't I, which is the opportunity we have to present to them, it's making a difference. And the parents are the primary role model that the kids are following. But too many parents are leaving it up to the TV set, to the movie theater, to the iPods, to do this teaching for them.
To the music videos.
And they're not aware that they have the power to influence their child. We don't teach our children by osmosis. They don't grow up knowing what our values are if we're not sharing those values with them.
Amen.
And the disconnect between parents even spending time with their kids or having a meal together once a week, twice a week, and having an opportunity to converse is making a difference. When we don't talk about the outcomes of proms and the way we dress. There's so much reporting done now on the sexualization of girls, and it's starting with companies promoting very sexy images to our 8 and 9-year-olds. I mean, I have daughters, and I'm aware of how difficult it is to teach and to buy clothing that's appropriate for them.
Yes, brat dolls and, Barbie dolls, and then you've got all kinds of costuming, and I've seen it all. I was down at a modeling agency, I won't say which one, that we do business with. I was down at a modeling agency, and when I went down in the morning, there's chairs that line all the hallways, and the models come in. I came in, and I saw a bunch of 12 and 13 and 14-year-old girls, very, very young and not dressed up. I thought they were there for kid shots. So when I went back through the building later, I see these dressed up, made up beautiful 20-something lookalikes where the magazine shots were taking very young girls because of their skin and a close-up, and I asked the photographer, and they're dressing them up to look like 20, 22, 24, and they're bringing them into that 20-something, and you're 13 or 14 years old. That's the average age because they want the youth, the skin, and what they're doing is creating, like you say, on the internet, this desire. It's a utilization of children for porn, for sex, even though it's not porn, but it's borderline porn.
Well, and the influence that has on our girls and our boys who want to dress that way and want to mimic what they're seeing on
emulate.
TV.
Sure.
The TV shows alone, if you consider what is portrayed today, you sit down at night and you turn on the tube, and what you're going to see is very different from what you would have seen even a number of years ago. I mean, when we have shows like Skin coming up and it's rated mature and it's put on at a time where our young people are still up and watching TV, a number of years ago, something like that would never have come on, and there never would have been a silent response to it. The outrage factor is missing because we see so much of it, and the whole desensitizing of that kind of portrayal is very much evident around us.
Well, the sad part, there is some sensory, at least on television. Like I said, it's creeping, it's all creeping backwards, but really it's our computers, because the kids are isolated, they're away. The computer now today has access to the movies. They don't even have to pay for it. You can get movies, you can get porn, you can get really traunchy, sexual, you can get anything, and then you have Twitter and Tweeter and Face, and you have the people have these relationships, over the internet that become very intense, and then there's meetings and all of that suspense that you work yourself up into. So it's just a totally different age of technological sensuality, I think.
That is very true. The Kaiser Institute recently did a survey 2 months ago, actually, and the indicator that they had is that teens today between the age of 8 and 18 are exposed to 7 hours and 38 minutes of media every single day. And when you consider what the majority of that music is involved with, when we teach, we just pull off the top 10 songs from the charts for that day. And we sort of judge the message that comes across. We don't do it, we have the kids do it. So is this a healthy song? Is it an unhealthy song? Is it encouraging us to participate in risky behavior? As a 12 or a 13 or a 14-year-old, how do you receive the message of this song? And so we're teaching them to be discerning with the various influences that are coming their way, and then encouraging them, if there's nothing but unhealthy messaging, please put a filter in place. Yeah. Please consider that this is not a accurate portrayal that you can, in TV, you can jump in and out of bed with anybody you want and it looks great. You can sit in a bar and drink and it looks like everybody's having a great time, but they don't show the aftermath. And the reality of it is that people don't jump out of burning buildings and escape without broken bones, and they don't get away in getaway cars without crashing, and they don't jump in and out of beds with everybody without a consequence.
Without a consequence. And the consequence, sadly, you brought up in front, is the girls are left alone with an unintended pregnancy, and their lives are changed, and some just incredibly, horribly changed.
Yeah, statistically, 3 out of 10 girls before the age of 20 will deal with a pregnancy.
Well, I'm told that 51% of all births in the United States last year and previous years in recent history, 51% are unintended pregnancies. And I'm sure that number, varies, maybe higher, and at a cost to the public of $11 billion a year. That's federally and state. And, in Michigan alone, which I'm sure is under funded $360 million for unintended pregnancy, plus the fact they don't cover the cost of the after responsibilities of the continued life. And then the young ladies, what does your future look like? Can you go to college? Do you go to college? What job do you get? You start off on what? Help, welfare. It strained relationships in your home with your parents. A baby that has 24/7 needs, and you're psychologically youth. It's hard even at any age, but oh my goodness,
yeah, and that's the I guess the joy. It's kind of mixed in what we're presenting in the schools, because we're helping them to become aware.
Mm-hmm.
So many of them, we do a goal lesson and we talk about what kind of goals do we have for our lives, and what happens if you do have a pregnancy and there's a teenager. How will that affect your goals? And so many of them are still, well, I'm still going to get my college degree and become a doctor or a lawyer. And it's like, I really hope for you that if that circumstance happens, that you will still have everything that it takes to accomplish a goal. And that's part of what we do at Crossroads. We help them. We want them to be successful. We want them to not live under a welfare system. We want to help them become independent and attain their education.
Laudable goals.
But the reality is, it's hard. And when you're not sleeping and when you don't have a partner supporting you, it's a very, very difficult road to go.
And when you raise a child and you're young like that, well, good luck on getting a date in the future. Because not only did the guy who impregnated you leave you, but the guys out there are going to say, ooh, not me. I'm not picking up on that one.
Yeah.
It became lonely and hard.
And one of the realities that we see is that often it's a cycle. The mom was a teen mom. Her daughter becomes a teen mom, and the expectation is that the next generation, and so we want to be cycle breakers. We want to teach them a better way, and how you do that is by giving information. And so when we start at a young age by presenting factual, complete information and teaching kids that it is possible to abstain. It is possible to make a healthy choice for yourself. It is possible to have a hopeful and a successful future based on self-control, discipline. We don't lie to them. It's not easy. It wasn't easy for me growing up, and it's much more difficult today.
Well, part of the problem, though, and how do you deal with that when the young ladies, young men, young ladies, don't have respect for themselves and don't have respect for each other? And there's this moral dilemma that, I'm young, I live forever, I'm super, not me, it's not going to happen to me.
Well, and that's part of the information cycle. One of the days we present in the schools, both in the high school and in the middle school, is on dealing with sexually transmitted infections and diseases. This is information they've been taught about HIV for years. The government has mandated that is taught, and they do a very good job with it. What they don't talk so much about is chlamydia, is gonorrhea, is trichomoniasis, which is one of the most contagious diseases beyond the common cold and the flu. They don't talk about the prevalence of human papillomavirus, which is taking away lives. Almost as many women in this country are dying of cervical cancer caused by HPV as they are of AIDS. And yet there's very low profile given to STIs because it's not politically correct to say that somebody should actually abstain, somebody should actually wait for a monogamous relationship. Sex is not a game. And teaching young people that there is a cost and the potential, you may walk away the first time without a physical consequence. There's always an emotional cost. There is always a cost to that kind of a choice. But the reality of 19 million new STIs in the United States every single year, and almost half of that number is young people under the age of 24. Chlamydia, the highest rate of chlamydia is between 15 and 19-year-old girls. This is a disease that is treatable. So if kids know they have it, they can get treatment and it can be cured. But this is a disease that takes away their opportunity to become a mom one day. And infertility rates have risen 500% in the last 10 years. And primarily, that number is risen because of STIs and things that are not getting treated because they're asymptomatic. There's usually... we know with genital herpes, you have these ugly blisters, and with HPV, you can get these warts, and herpes leaves these ugly sores, and HIV leaves you with thrush and all kinds of other symptoms if you have the symptoms. But if you don't have symptoms, if you don't wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and there's no herpes tattooed on your forehead or your nose didn't turn orange, you think, woohoo, I'm safe, I'm good. Nothing happened. We have... chlamydia doesn't have a lot of symptoms. Up to 85% of the time, there's no symptoms for it. Condoms do not protect for chlamydia. At most 50% from what we know. Condoms do not 100% protect you from any of the STDs out there, including HIV.
No, they're not 100%. And then you go down to how do you judge the quality of the condom. When I was in Texas, I was in Dallas the other day, and I was amazed. Driving down the road and looking around, I saw a sign. And it's a franchise in Texas. Condoms to go.
Oh, my.
Condoms to go. I said, what's that?
And what kind of a message does that send? So we encourage kids that they should be using condoms, and we saw that. We saw that after the whole sexual revolution in the 60s. We encouraged condom use because AIDS was becoming, in the 80s when it showed up, we thought that would help us. Yeah. So more kids were using condoms, but more kids were feeling safe. And when I define safe, I mean there's no risk. If I feel safe, I shouldn't have to fear anything.
Yes. Well, condoms do not protect you completely from AIDS. There's no data that shows that condoms protect from AIDS.
Correct.
0. Because which one fails? Did you have the one that failed?
Yeah. And for pregnancy. We have a number of couples who come in, and we used it consistently 100% of the time, and they're coming in for pregnancy.
Oh, yes,
tests.
Yes.
And I think it's important to be honest with kids to say that, yes, they do reduce the risk, but they don't eliminate it. And so when you're thinking you're engaging in activity that keeps you safe, and it doesn't, or you forget to tell them things like oral sex puts you at risk. That is an activity that, the biggest fear teenagers have today is that they will get pregnant. And I'm so incredibly thankful that there's places like Crossroads that help these young women who find themselves in that situation. But that is not something that you typically die from. And yet these diseases, 19 million of them, are killing people every year. What we know about HPV today compared to 2 years ago is quite different. HPV came around the same time as AIDS did, but because it caused genital warts, we thought it wasn't a big deal. AIDS was killing people. That was a big deal. So our research money went towards AIDS development, and I'm grateful that there is help for those who are dealing with immunodeficiency diseases. But what we are learning now about HPV is that it causes vulval cancer, vaginal cancer, penile cancer, anal cancer, head cancer, neck cancer. 98% of cervical cancer is caused by HPV. It's a scary disease, and there are millions of new cases every single year of it. And so if we think we're safe because we're not going to get pregnant, you can get any of these diseases orally, that you can get vaginal or genitally. Something like chlamydia, this is a disease that doesn't have symptoms. It affects almost as many young men as it does women, but the statistics are more prevalent for women. Every week I get a statistic from the state of Michigan on how prevalent chlamydia and gonorrhea are in our state. And for a disease that has few symptoms, which if you have a symptom, you're going to go to the doctor to get tested.
Yes.
And if you don't, it's usually people don't go unless they know that they should be. And hopefully kids are understanding that if they're choosing to be sexually active, it's important to be tested.
Well, males don't go even when they have symptoms.
Yes, I have daughters, so I don't really get that part. But there's, last week in the state of Michigan, 581 new cases of chlamydia. The first time you get a disease like this, 25% of your, it takes away 25% of your ability to have a child. The second time it's 50%. And then it just grows from there. And so infertility...
Is that for males as well as females?
It is for males as well as for females.
I'm sure guys
don't
understand that at all. I'm sure there's no understanding. Not that the girls do, unless, like you said, they have a lot of information. And I don't think parents are passing this along. Too many.
I don't think parents know the information.
Yes.
There's hundreds of thousands of people.
Does Crossroads have training programs for parents, too?
We have started doing parent presentations over the last 2 years, and I've actually been trained by the Medical Institute for Sexual Health. I've been certified to do parent workshops, and we're looking at actually in the fall presenting some of those in the Oak Park School District.
Awesome. That's great.
We do a lot of them for private churches, for women's groups.
So you get invited in so that people are aware of you, so we can talk to our audience out there that you need to look at Crossroads because you, pastors, you need to take a look because you need to have programs in your church for your communities. And then you need to be resounding this out and bringing your parents, the parents in, because the parents, as Evelyn said, are the front line. Parents need to know this information. You need to know this information. You need to look at your kids and see your kids. We need to get back to being a family and sitting down at least once a day at dinner, at least once a day for breakfast, sometime during the day. We need to look at our daughters and we need to look at our sons and we need to talk to them about this. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, it's something that will impact their future. It will impact their marriages.
Yes.
It will impact all of the relationships which they have. And information is key, and they need to hear it from their parents.
Well, the other part of it, and it's important, too, because $11 billion, we're talking about our economy, and we're all talking about the government keeps telling us it's broke, but here's $11 billion that if we educate our children and we educate the parents ourselves and our grandchildren, the grandparents take responsibility for their grandchildren and their children, then we can reduce that 11 billion. But it's not just 11 billion. There's an ongoing cost. There's a mental cost with this. There are people deciding to abort children also, and we're not even talking about that in this. We're not talking about the number of abortions that go on because the parents or their daughters can't live with having a child that they have given birth to. And birth, as you said, begins in the beginning, so you can't say I'm canceling out a birth just because you don't see the child.
Right. Yeah. We do post-counseling for women who have experienced that as well. And it's a very traumatic event that they go through, and people who say it's not going to impact you, it's like saying a disease doesn't impact us. Of course it impacts you. It impacts the way you think about yourself. And the one thing I don't want to miss is that the hope that is there when we all have sinned and fallen short, as the scriptures tell us. And we know that because when I look at myself, I see my shortcomings, but I know that they are blotted out through Christ's blood, and I'm so grateful for that. We offer hope to kids because as I look at myself, and no adult gets to be that way without having made any mistakes. And so I tell kids, if you've already gone down a road you don't want to stay in, if you've made choices that affect the way you think about yourself or the way other people think about you, it doesn't mean you have to stay there. There's always hope ahead of you. And when we're in a Christian setting, we can offer the hope of the gospel. But in the schools, we talk to them about, I illustrate it. We have all kinds of illustrations we use in our classes. It's very interactive. We use balloons, and we have a lot of engaging activities for the kids to get the lesson so that they understand it. We use...
There's more than, like you said, there is hope, but there's also the feeling of worthlessness. You're not worthless.
Right.
Your child is worthy to be born. You are worthy to go ahead. You made a mistake. But life is about dealing with our tragedies and our mistakes. Getting through those make us stronger. People say, yeah, I've heard that. But it's absolutely the truth.
And you don't want to compound it.
You do, after it says right here that you post abortion counseling, and you also counsel men or boys, and you have prenatal marriage counseling, childbirth and infant care classes. So those who are having the child, you help them deal with the child, prenatal health care. Mm-hmm. So you cover, the gambit, and you also talk to them about, all right, you have this child, but you can't mentally, you don't want to have the child, and then you help them find adoption referrals too. You have that program.
We will do adoption referrals. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And medical referrals and abstinence education.
Yes, our SHARE program, Sexual Health and Relationship Education, which
you've got a charity coming up to support that program.
We do. I'd love to share with your listeners.
Well, go ahead. We'd love to, go eat someplace and, go get a twofer. I can donate to charity and you can get a good meal.
Well, and this is a beautiful meal, and it's at a beautiful location and a venue. We are having a celebration of life, an evening at Wingate, which is found on Gun Road in Rochester Hills. And that is going to be on Monday, July 18th, between 6 and 9. And we're really excited. We have very few fundraisers each year. This is not only a great opportunity to support our ministry, but they have music. There is a silent auction. Our guest speaker this year is Dr. Larry Arnn from Hillsdale College, and talking about how every Christian needs to be involved in education and action in the realm of politics. The support from this evening will go towards a SHARE program to help us in the schools that we are presenting to, as well as the ongoing needs of providing material assistance and help.
Now, you said you are not federally funded.
We are not.
And you're not state funded.
We are not.
And that is amazing. So how are you funded? Yeah, this obviously is a dinner, but this is not your funding. This is a very tiny part of your funding. How are you funded? Through endowments, through private donations, through churches?
We have a number of churches which support us in the ministry of life that we have. There are private donations given specifically towards the SHARE program. We are looking at incorporating lunch and learns with several corporations to provide parent education during their workday and then have them support us. But it's mostly individual donors, individual churches, people that have a heart for the ministry of life, that it could be $10 a month.
Well, I want to thank you, Evelyn. Let's tell us you're going to have the fundraiser is going to be on July the 18th.
From 6 to 9.
At Wingate. How do they get to tickets?
They can go online to www.crossroadspregnancy.org or call us at the center, 248-293-0070.
Tell us the phone number again, please.
248-293-0070.
All right. We got about a minute to go. And I want to say thank you. Would you pronounce your last name so I get it right?
Van Sloten.
Van Sloten. And thank you, Crossroads Pregnancy Center. Just an awesome work, and you made so much progress. Well, this is Dan Hutchins. God321.net is where you can find me. Dan Hutchins at God321.net. You can email me. On that, we're on 1500 Faith Talk, which is a great station. You don't want to go anywhere else. You want to come right here. And yes, we're on again at 11 tonight. We repeat every day, 5 days a week. So I also wanted to remind you I want to remind you that we're going to have this other contest I'll be talking about. You need to look out there for someone who needs medical assistance dollars and write us a note. God321.net. Dan Hutchins at God321.net. And I look forward to hearing more about Crossroads. I look forward to seeing you, and tomorrow it's going to be a beautiful day, and we're going to be back with you, and I look forward to it. We're going to have an exciting guest, and we are out of here.
Thanks for listening to God 321 with Dan Hutchins. God 321 is sponsored by Dihydro Services, Inc. To learn more about the person of the Holy Spirit, visit God321.net. That's God321.net. Or call 586-978-0541. That's 586-978-0541.